Hey everyone, ready to dive into a world that's, well, pretty freaky.
Oh, yeah.
We're going way back, like 66 million years ago, to the time after that asteroid smashed into Earth, the one that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Right.
Everyone knows about the impact itself, but what happened after that is what we're looking at today.
Yeah.
And it's not just about who survived, it's about how the world changed into, honestly, a total nightmare.
It's true. It wasn't just an ending. The aftermath of that asteroid, it was the start of something totally new. And, well, let's just say, it would make for a seriously scary movie.
Okay, so paint me a picture here.
Right.
What did the world actually look like after this massive impact?
Okay, so imagine just firestorms raging across entire continents. Molten rock, like rivers of it just flowing.
Wow.
And a massive cloud of dust blocking out the sun, maybe for years.
Oh, wow.
It's hard to even imagine the scale of this disaster, but we're talking about an apocalypse that reshaped the entire planet.
Yeah, the darkness, the cold, the smell.
Yeah.
It must have been really eerie.
Oh, for sure.
But you mentioned there were survivors.
Yeah.
What could possibly live through that?
It might surprise you. It wasn't the biggest or strongest creatures that inherited the Earth.
Right.
It was the small, adaptable ones. The ones that could eat just about anything and, really important, could reproduce quickly. They were already built to survive in tough conditions.
So the underdogs took over. That's fascinating. But it wasn't exactly a paradise they inherited, was it?
No, not at all. Nature, it kind of hates a vacuum.
Right.
So as the dinosaurs vanished, new predators evolved to take their place. And trust me, these new guys weren't cute and cuddly.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. What kind of scary creatures are we talking about?
Well, on land, one of the most terrifying predators was it's kind of obvious, the terror bird.
Okay.
These were flightless birds, some of them over 3 meters tall.
Wow.
And their beaks, huge, capable of crushing bone like nothing.
Wow, 3 meters tall. I had thought of that. That's taller than most humans. What were they hunting? Was anything safe?
They were at the top of the food chain, so pretty much anything they could catch was on the menu. Mammals, reptiles, other birds.
Oh, wow.
You can just imagine their screeches echoing across the landscape, a constant reminder of the danger.
Yeah, that paints a pretty terrifying picture. So, if the land was that dangerous, the oceans must have been a safe haven, right?
Not really, you'd be wrong about that. In fact, the seas might have been even more terrifying.
Really?
Gone were the marine reptiles of the dinosaur era, and in their place, some truly monstrous creatures.
Okay, hit me with it. What was the scariest ocean monster?
Well, you gotta talk about Megalodon. This wasn't your average shark.
Right.
We're talking about a predator that could reach up to 18 meters long with teeth the size of your forearm.
18 meters. That's almost impossible to imagine. How do scientists even know these things existed?
Fossils, of course. We find their massive teeth, and sometimes parts of their skeletons. It lets us piece together these ancient creatures and see how big, how powerful they really were.
Wow, that's incredible. So it wasn't just the land that had giants. The oceans had their own set of terrifying behemoths. What else was down there?
Well, alongside Megalodon, there was Leviathan, an ancient whale.
Okay.
It rivaled Megalodon in both size and ferocity. Essentially, a whale with the instincts of a killer whale. Imagine those two titans clashing in the depths. Anything else nearby would have just been, well, collateral damage.
So no matter where you ended up, land or water, this post-dinosaur world was a dangerous place. Everything was just bigger and scarier back then?
That's one way to put it. But remember, it wasn't just about size.
Right.
These creatures were evolving rapidly, adapting to this new world in incredible ways. The asteroid, it was like an evolutionary pressure cooker.
So it's not just a horror show, it's also a window into how life adapts and evolves under extreme pressure. And this is where our mammal ancestors come in, right?
Exactly. In this chaotic world, that's where our own primate ancestors first appear. Tiny, vulnerable creatures trying to survive amongst these giants. The odds were definitely not in their favor.
Wow, to think our ancestors had to dodge giant killer birds and mega sharks.
Yeah.
It really makes you appreciate how far we've come.
It does, and it makes you wonder, what exactly helped them survive? How did those early mammals avoid becoming a terror bird's dinner or, Megalodon's lunch?
Okay, now I'm really hooked. Let's dig into that. So, our tiny mammal ancestors sharing the planet with these, absolute behemoths.
Yeah.
How did they avoid becoming a quick snack? What were their survival strategies?
Well, one key factor was their adaptability.
Okay.
Remember we talked about how they could eat just about anything?
Yeah.
And how they reproduced quickly.
Right.
That meant they weren't so reliant on, specific resources that might have vanished after the asteroid.
I see.
And they could bounce back from, like, population losses much easier than larger animals that, well, didn't breed as fast.
Makes sense. So being flexible was a huge advantage in this world that was constantly changing.
Yeah.
But how did they avoid actually becoming dinner for, a terror bird or a saber-toothed cat?
Size actually worked against the predators in this case.
Really?
Think about it, a small mammal.
Yeah.
It could hide much more easily, could disappear into burrows, climb trees that a giant terror bird just couldn't reach.
Okay.
So their agility, their ability to navigate these complex environments, that became their superpower.
This is like a classic David and Goliath story where being small and quick is actually the best defense.
Aw.
But it wasn't just about hiding, right?
Definitely not.
They had to find food, raise their young, deal with all the other challenges of this, post-apocalyptic world.
Absolutely. And this is where we see some truly incredible adaptations evolving. Take their senses, for example. Many mammals developed really sharp hearing and smell,
Yeah.
to detect predators from far away or find food even when it was dark.
Fascinating. So while the predators were all about brute force, our ancestors were developing like these more subtle but equally effective survival skills. It's almost like evolution was favoring brains over brawn.
Right. Exactly. And that trend, it continued as mammals diversified and evolved. In fact, it's a big reason why mammals eventually became so successful. But it wasn't just about, individual adaptations.
Oh.
Many mammals also developed complex social structures.
Social structures. What do you mean by that? How would that help them survive?
Well, living in groups offered several advantages.
Like what?
More eyes and ears to watch out for danger, right?
Right.
And it allowed for cooperative hunting and defense. Imagine a pack of small mammals working together to take down prey or fend off a larger predator.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's strength in numbers, even when you're facing down a giant terror bird. So some of the dinosaurs were social too, but it sounds like mammals were taking it to a whole new level.
Exactly. And as these social groups became more complex, so did their communication.
Yeah.
We see evidence of this in the evolution of, specialized vocalizations, scent markings, even body language.
Right.
These communication skills, they allowed mammals to coordinate their actions, share information about food or danger, and basically increase their chances of survival.
So these, what might seem like simple adaptations, better senses, social behavior, communication, they were really the foundation for the rise of mammals.
Yeah, pretty much.
It really makes you appreciate the power of evolution.
Yeah.
How it finds creative solutions to even the most extreme challenges.
Absolutely. It reminds us that evolution isn't always about being bigger, stronger, faster. Sometimes the most successful adaptations are about being more adaptable, more intelligent, more cooperative.
So we've gone from a world ruled by dinosaurs to a world where our tiny mammal ancestors are carving out their own space, using their wits and social skills to survive.
Yeah.
But this period, the Paleogene, it was a time of huge change, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What else was happening on the planet that would have impacted our ancestors?
Well, the environment itself was in a state of flux. The asteroid impact. It triggered a cascade of changes. Volcanic eruptions, shifting continents, fluctuating sea levels, crazy climate swings.
Wow.
All these changes created a landscape that was constantly shifting, a patchwork of habitats that were, both challenging and full of opportunities for new life.
So on top of all those predators and competition, our ancestors had to cope with a planet that was basically reinventing itself. What a wild time to be alive.
It was. But these environmental changes also played a huge role in shaping mammal evolution. They forced our ancestors to adapt to new environments, new food sources, new ways of life.
So it was dangerous, but also a time of huge opportunity. What were some of the specific challenges that these environmental changes brought? How did they impact the evolution of the traits we see in mammals today?
That's a great question, and one that paleontologists are still trying to figure out. But one thing's clear, the Paleogene was a time of remarkable diversification for mammals.
So it wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving and spreading into new ecological niches. And those niches were constantly opening up as the environment changed, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to a key concept in evolution: niche replacement.
Niche replacement, what does that mean?
It means that as old ecosystems collapsed and new ones emerged, new opportunities popped up for different types of organisms.
All right.
Like the extinction of large herbivorous dinosaurs, the plant eaters.
Yeah.
Well, that opened up a niche for large plant-eating mammals. And when some marine reptiles disappeared, it created opportunities for new types of sharks and whales to evolve.
So it's like a giant game of musical chairs.
Yeah.
But the music stopped with the asteroid impact, and everyone scrambled to find a new seat. And the ones who were most adaptable, most able to use the new opportunities, they were the ones that survived and thrived.
That's a great analogy. And in the case of mammals, they were really good at finding those new seats.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They diversified into all sorts of shapes, sizes, and lifestyles, taking advantage of every available niche.
So we have this incredible story of adaptation and diversification, and it's all happening against the backdrop of a planet that's constantly changing.
Right.
And somewhere in all of this chaos, the lineage that leads to us, to humans, it was taking shape. What a mind-blowing thought.
It truly is. It reminds us that our own story, the story of humanity, it's deeply connected to the story of life on Earth. We are products of this long and often tumultuous history, shaped by the same forces of evolution and adaptation that have been at work for billions of years.
That's an amazing perspective. Makes you wonder, what other stories are hidden in the fossil record? What other secrets of our ancient past are just waiting to be discovered?
Oh, there are countless stories out there just waiting to be told. And as we explore the fossil record more and more, we'll gain a deeper understanding of the forces that shaped life on Earth, including our own lineage.
I can't wait to hear more. But before we get into the evolution of our ancestors, let's just take a moment to think about the sheer scale of change that happened during this time. It wasn't just about a few new creatures. It was about the entire planet reinventing itself. The oceans, the forests, even the air we breathe.
You're absolutely right. And this brings us to another important aspect of the Paleogene, the evolution of plant life.
Okay, so we've talked about the terrifying predators, the shifting continents, the changing climate. But what about the plants? How do they make out in this post-dinosaur world?
Well, just like the animal kingdom was going through a huge transformation, the plant world was also experiencing a period of rapid change and diversification. Remember, the dinosaurs had been the main herbivores for millions of years.
Right.
Well, their extinction had a massive impact on plant ecosystems.
So the dinosaurs are gone, and their absence is changing the plant world too.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of changes are we talking about?
Well, picture a forest that's been evolving for millions of years under, giant sauropods.
Those long-necked dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Suddenly, those giants are gone. That frees up space and resources for different kinds of plants.
It's like taking off a weight that was holding them back. What kind of plants took over?
We see flowering plants, angiosperms really taking off during this time. They were already around when the dinosaurs were here, but they just exploded in diversity and abundance in the Paleogene.
Wow.
And that had a huge impact on the whole ecosystem.
So the dinosaurs dying wasn't just about who was eating whom. It was about changing the whole foundation of the food web, right?
Absolutely. These new forests full of flowering plants, they provided different kinds of food and shelter for the new mammals that were evolving. Some mammals developed teeth that were perfect for grinding seeds and fruits.
Okay.
While others, they got better at climbing and navigating these new, more complex forests.
It's crazy how plants and animals, their evolution is so connected. But were there any, dangers in these new forests?
Oh,
We
yeah.
were talking about these giant predators. Were they still around?
Oh, definitely. Remember, evolution never stops. As the environment changed, so did the predators. Actually, some of the most iconic predators of all time evolved during this period.
Like who?
Like saber-toothed cats.
Oh yeah, those guys. Those saber teeth. Weren't they a little bit overkill? What were they hunting that needed those?
Well, remember those big plant-eating mammals we talked about?
Yeah.
They were getting more and more common, and, they were a pretty good meal for a predator. So saber-toothed cats evolved those huge fangs, really strong forelimbs, and special hunting techniques to take them down.
So the prey evolves, and the predators evolve to catch them, and then. It's like a never-ending arms race.
That's a great way to put it. It's one of the things that makes evolution so fascinating to study. But it wasn't all about predator versus prey. The environment itself kept changing things up.
What other challenges did our ancestors have to deal with?
As the continents moved around, climates changed a lot. We see vast grasslands emerging, deserts expanding, and even ice ages starting. These changes put new pressure on mammals, favoring those that could handle colder temperatures, drier conditions, or the wide open spaces of the grasslands.
So even as our ancestors were figuring out how to survive in one environment, everything would change again. It sounds like a really tough time to be a mammal.
It was, but it was also a time of incredible opportunity. Those mammals that could adapt to these new challenges, that could, evolve new traits and behaviors, they were the ones that thrived and diversified.
And somewhere in all of that, our own lineage was evolving. It's amazing to think that our ancestors lived through all of that, facing those giant predators, dealing with a world that was constantly changing. They paved the way for us to be here.
It really does put things in perspective. We often think of humans as like the top of the evolutionary ladder, but really, we're just one small branch on this huge, complex tree of life.
Yeah.
And that tree has been shaped by forces way bigger than us, forces that have been working for billions of years.
That's humbling. To think that we exist because of this long, incredible journey, a journey that started after that asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs.
And it's a journey that's still happening.
That's true.
Every fossil we find, every new piece of evidence, it adds to this amazing story. And the more we learn about our past, the more we understand how interconnected all life on Earth really is.
Well said. So, to wrap things up, what's the big takeaway from all this? What should we, as modern humans, remember about the world after the dinosaurs?
I think the main thing is that change is the only constant. The world after the dinosaurs was constantly changing, and the creatures that could adapt to those changes, that could find new opportunities, those were the ones that thrived.
It's a reminder that even when things seem impossible, life finds a way. And sometimes those challenges lead to amazing leaps forward in evolution.
Exactly. And who knows what challenges and opportunities are coming next for life on Earth. For us, the story of evolution isn't over. It's still being written, with each new generation adding its own chapter.
That's a great thought to end on. So to all our listeners, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never underestimate how powerful adaptation is and how resilient life really is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.